Hello, Andrew Cullum here. When I'm not acting on stage, I spend quite a lot of time recording audiobooks. And I'm quite fond of saying that recording a really interesting book with interesting characters and good dialogue is just like being in a radio play and getting to play all the characters myself. So John's asked me, as part of the Speakers One project, to record this short video giving a few pointers for acting for a microphone. Now, like I say, I've also done a lot of stage work, and when you're on stage in a theatre like the one at Chipping Norton, your closest member of the audience might be 6 feet away or so, sitting on the front row of the stalls. The audience member the furthest away might be fully 60 or so feet away, sitting at the back of the gallery. So on stage, your performance has got to be big enough in terms of volume and energy to reach that person right at the back of the gallery, but also subtle enough not to completely blast away the person sitting at the front row of the stalls. And that's always an interesting balance to draw when you're on stage. Acting for the microphone, your audience is only as far away from your mouth as the microphone is, and that's generally somewhere around about the length of a handspan. So your mouth around about here, the microphone around about here. So what's that about? I don't know. Somewhere between 6 and 10 inches. So what that means is if, for example, you're reading something very emotional, reading something where somebody gets angry and they shout, you don't really shout, you actually do for a microphone what I did just now. You simulate a shout, because if you were to genuinely shout, as if you were genuinely trying to either to catch somebody's attention who's 60 feet away, or whether you're so angry you want to kill somebody, if you were doing that for real, it would be much louder. But for the microphone, you have to simulate that. Now, it's been said by people who act for television and people who act for film that the camera doesn't lie. The camera will pick up anything. The camera will see the emotions going on behind the eyes. The microphone works in the same way. Obviously, with the microphone, all you have is sound. So you have to do everything with your voice. Every emotion, every word, obviously, you're having to use your voice. Now, on stage, if anything goes wrong on stage, if you fluff a line, you just carry on, and the chances are nobody's going to notice. If you fluff a line on audio, then it is very, very noticeable. Somebody listening to it might think, oh, what was that? And they'll wind it back and play it again, and sure enough, there is your fluffed line for all to hear. So if you do fluff a line, you have to put it right. When I'm reading audiobooks, I'm in the studio literally all day, every day. So I might have 7 hours in front of the microphone. By the time you get to the end of the day, it feels like my eyes are on stalks. If I close my eyes, I can just see print in front of me. And it's very easy to make a fluff. And every so often, I have to stop. So sometimes I'll read pages and pages without a single fluff. Other times, depending on the text, I might be making a fluff every other line, especially when I'm tired. So recording can be a laborious process, and it helps if you've got some editing software. Audacity is a kind of a free version of some editing software, which is on quite a lot of computers. So if you do have the means to edit what you've recorded, that really will make life so much easier. It's very important to read through what you're going to record before you actually come to record it. That will save you a lot of time. And whereas on stage you have to learn lines, for recording you don't have to learn the lines, but it does help if you're familiar with the words. Earlier on, I recorded a passage by Anton Chekhov, which I'm going to leave you with in a few minutes. The very opening line. Olenka, the daughter of the retired collegiate assessor Plemyaniakov, the retired collegiate assessor Plemyaniakov. Now that's one to rehearse a few times. Olenka, the daughter of the retired... Oh no, I got it wrong. Olenka, the daughter of the retired collegiate assessor Plemyaniakov. The daughter of the retired collegiate assessor... The daughter of the retired collegiate assessor Plemyaniakov. The trick is to make it sound easy, to make it sound... to make it sound easy, to make it sound spontaneous. Reading a little bit further along, there's a rather emotional passage. All right, here we go. There, that's the life we lead, Olga Semyonova. One works and does one's utmost. One wears oneself out, getting no sleep at night, and racks one's brain what to do for the best, and then what happens? Well, I hope you realised that that was a little bit overdone, deliberately. Good acting is really all about believability. On television, as I said earlier, you can see it all going on behind the eyes, but the microphone also doesn't lie. And we need to hear the thoughts that the actor is having. We need to hear the emotions that he or she is going through. So in a few minutes' time, you can listen to that whole passage of Chekhov and make your own minds up. So, key points. Believe what it is you're portraying through your voice. Don't overdo it. Yeah, I can't really put it any simpler than that. Yeah, don't overdo it. Don't over-emote. Often it's said that less is more. So the less you do, the more effective it is. Think of it in terms of screen acting again. If you look at some of the great screen actors, look at Olivia Colman's performance as the Queen in the recent series of The Crown. She does very little and shows a great deal. By way of complete contrast, have a look at John Cleese in an episode of Fawlty Towers. Now, a very different style of acting, a very different situation. It's very funny, but the character Basil Fawlty doesn't find the situation where he's so cross with a car that he wants to beat it with a branch that he's torn off a tree. He believes it completely. And because he believes it completely and is hugely frustrated, it's very funny for anybody watching him. And the same is true with audio. So believe it, don't overdo it, and review what you've done. So listen back to what you've recorded, and the chances are you're going to have to do several takes before you get something that you're happy with. The recording of the Chekhov, which I'm going to play you at the end of this video, it may interest you to know that was actually the third take. Why? Because there were sections in the first and second that weren't actually wrong. There was nothing wrong with them. There were no fluffs or anything like that. But I just didn't feel they were very good. I didn't believe that the characters I was portraying were really going through what I was saying. I didn't believe it, so I recorded it again. And be tough on yourself. It'll be worth it. And you'll be glad that you've done something of better quality at the end of it than if you just thought, oh, well, let it go. That's all from me. I'm now going to leave you with a section from Anton Chekhov's The Darling. Just a short section. It lasts about 3 minutes, and I'll leave you to decide whether I practice what I preach. Thanks for listening.
Olenka, the daughter of the retired collegiate assessor Plemyaniakov, was sitting in her back porch, lost in thought. It was hot. The flies were persistent and teasing, and it was pleasant to reflect that it would soon be evening. Dark rain clouds were gathering from the east, and bringing from time to time a breath of moisture in the air. Kukin, who was the manager of an open-air theatre called the Tivoli, and who lived in the lodge, was standing in the middle of the garden, looking at the sky. "Again?" he observed despairingly. "It's going to rain again. Rain, every day, as though to spite me. I might as well hang myself. It's ruin. Fearful losses, every day." He flung up his hands and went on, addressing Olenka. "There! That's the life we lead, Olga Semyonova. It's enough to make one cry. One works and does one's utmost. One wears oneself out, getting no sleep at night, and racks one's brain what to do for the best. And then what happens? To begin with, one's public is ignorant, boorish. I give them the very best operetta, a dainty masque, first-rate music hall artists. But do you suppose that's what they want? They don't understand anything of that sort. They want a clown. What they ask for is vulgarity. And then, look at the weather. Almost every evening it rains. It started on the 10th of May, and it's kept it up all May and June. It's simply awful. The public doesn't come. But I've to pay the rent just the same, and pay the artists." The next evening the clouds would gather again, and Kukin would say with an hysterical laugh, "Well, rain away then. Flood the gardens, drown me, damn my luck in this world and the next. Let the artists have me up, send me to prison, to Siberia, the scaffold." And the next day, the same thing. Olenka listened to Kukin with silent gravity, and sometimes tears came into her eyes. In the end, his misfortunes touched her, and she grew to love him. He was a small, thin man with a yellow face, and curls combed forward on his forehead. He spoke in a thin tenor. As he talked, his mouth worked on one side, and there was always an expression of despair on his face, yet he aroused a deep and genuine affection in her. She was always fond of someone, and could not exist without loving.